Once upon a time, you started work in your very first job. Now, by first job, that means your first job in the marketplace. It's not that doing household chores and babysitting, mowing lawns isn't real work, because it is. But there's a different dynamic when you go out to work in the marketplace for the first time. For instance, you have your first encounter with taxes. Remember that first paycheck? You looked at the dollar amount on that check and you wondered, did I get shortchanged here? Welcome to the real world of withholding tax. Another new dynamic when you first went to work in the marketplace came in the form of your first boss. Do you remember your first boss? Now, if you're from my era, you might have to think a little harder, trace back a little further, but give it a shot. So what was your first job and who was your first boss? Now add a third question. What did you learn about leadership from your first boss? Here's where you get a chance to get into the action this morning. I'm going to ask you to turn to the person next to you and share brief answers to those three questions. Now, this is a rapid breakout. You've only got about 20 to 30 seconds each to share your responses. So once again, what was your first job? Who was your first boss? What did you learn about leadership from them? Ready, set, go. If you haven't already switched up who's sharing, you should switch it up. Okay, as you bring your attention back up to the front, it's important for you to know that much of your early leadership journey was shaped by the experiences with that first boss, even if you didn't realize it at the time. That's my story. My first job, I started out as a short, scrawny, 13-year-old kid delivering the afternoon newspaper, the old Minneapolis Star. Now, today, you probably get most of your news from a device like this iPhone. Back then, when I was growing up in the 1970s, most major metropolitan areas had both a morning and afternoon newspaper. My job was to deliver about 30 of these papers in my South Minneapolis neighborhood, and then a few extras on Saturday and Sunday mornings, getting up bright and early. My first boss was the district manager, Mr. Charland. I have two distinct memories of Mr. Charland. One was he drove a 1970s era Chevrolet Camaro that reminded me of the car that was driven by James Garner on the Rockford Files TV show. The other was that he had the biggest ring that I had ever seen to that point in my life. It was a navy ring that at times when he would sit in his car talking to me through the driver's window, be tapping on that steering wheel. Mr. Charland had high standards. The newspaper had to be delivered on time to every subscriber on that route, according to the customer's specifications. Most of the houses on my route wanted the newspaper delivered between the doors, the outside storm door, the door that opened inside to the inner part of the house. My favorite houses were the ones who locked their storm door, because then I didn't have to place the paper between the doors. That gave me a chance to practice my paper folding and throwing techniques. All right, so let's just see. Do I still have it after all of these years? Let's see what we've got. They don't make the newspaper quite like they used to. Here we go. All right, good catch, Tom. Mr. Charlin would swing by in that Chevy Camaro almost every afternoon after school as I was delivering papers, just to check in with me and see how things were going. He might ask, "How was school today?" I doubt I gave him much of a response, and he would typically give me some pointers about customer service and the value of customer service and how that would translate into better tips on collection day. At times, though, those conversations took on a different tone, a more corrective one. Usually, that was because I had forgotten some customer on the route, or perhaps on that day I took a shortcut and I didn't get the paper in between the doors. For some reason, it seemed like that Navy ring tapped a little harder and a little faster in those moments. But at the end of the day, Mr. Charlin realized that I was just a kid, and he could only come down so hard on me. If he was too tough, none of the kids would want to deliver the paper. Mr. Charlin had just the right blend of support and accountability in his leadership style. What I didn't realize until years later was that Mr. Charlin was showing me the first secret to become the leader everyone wants to follow. Take your team members' best interest to heart, even as you're delivering the results your organization needs. Your best leadership requires a combination of building relationships and delivering results. When you do that consistently, you and your team members both get what you want and need. In Mr. Charlin's case, what it got him was a growing, satisfied subscriber base in that South Minneapolis neighborhood. My interests back in those days were much more simple. I was looking for spending money, much of which ended up at the corner store, conveniently located right at the end of my route. Chips, candy bars, sodas, baseball cards. What else would a 13-year-old boy spend his money on back in those days? What about your team? Do they know that you have their best interests at heart? When you show that you have their best interest at heart, you're delivering your best leadership. You see, no one wants to be seen or feel like they're just a cog in the machine, only valued for what they can produce. Your people want to know that they are real people with real goals, their own dreams and desires, their own strengths, their own struggles. They want you to know what motivates them in the workplace and what gives you joy outside of work. They want your appreciation for a job well done. And they need your supportive accountability when you drop the ball. When you consistently engage with your team at that level, you are bringing your best leadership. But how? How can you do that day in and day out? Well, this is where your best leadership tool comes in. It's the one-on-one check-in. Remember how I said Mr. Charlin would swing by the paper route and check in with me almost every afternoon? Well, you can develop a routine much like his. It might not be a drive-by conversation on a neighborhood street. It might be more like a walk-by conversation in an office hallway. But even something as simple as stopping by your team members, "Hey, how are you doing today?" can go a long way. But don't stop there. Establish a more in-depth, a more extensive, regular one-on-one check-in meeting with every member of your team. You ask, how often should I do that? Well, that really depends. Depends on the person's experience, their maturity, the current projects that they're working on, and a number of other factors. It might be once a week for some team members, once a month for others. My suggestion, though, don't let anyone on your team go more than once in a month without having that check-in with you. Use those meetings to clarify priorities, to troubleshoot problem areas, to address work-life concerns and tensions, and dig into other concerns where you can help set your team member up for success. Talk about growth and development opportunities. Help that team member to show that you are walking alongside them as they are working toward their professional goals. The bottom line, show them that you have their best interests at heart. That's the first secret to become the leader everyone wants to follow. Would you like to know the second secret? Well, we don't have time now, but if you open the envelope that's in your copy of my book, you'll find out a little more about what is involved in that second secret. My name is Jon Lokhorst, and I would welcome the opportunity to work together with you to serve your team. Thank you very much.